So, I mean, one of the things that I remember you were talking about before was, like, how you grew up. You weren't, like, a rock drummer growing up. You were more of, like, blues and jazz and funk. Do you feel that put you ahead of most drummers while you were growing up, the fact that you had that uniqueness and training?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was ahead of a lot of drummers. This is before we had YouTube or any of that stuff. And this is before the gospel scene came out or anything in that kind of caliber of drummers. And I started drumming, like picking up sticks at the age of 2, 3 years old. And, when people ask me how long have you been drumming, well, I started when I was 2, 3, but seriously when I was like learning drums, like actually practicing and everything was probably when I was 17, 18. So I was always in a musical family. My grandfather played trombone with Tommy Dorsey and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's where I kind of gravitated towards big band and bebop. And then I fell in love. My dad was always listening to CDs. He was a drummer, not professionally, but for fun. And I would go through his CDs when I was a kid, and I found this band called Power of Power when I was really young. And I was like, who is this? And I put it in, and I heard What Is Hip, and I'm like, I like that band. And I kind of started gravitating towards, funk and Steely Dan and Earth, Wind and Fire and James Brown. And then I just basically started doing my own homework and listening to bands. So,
wow. You feel that a successful drummer should be multifaceted when it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, when I teach drum lessons, I've always said this. The more versatile you are, the more you're going to work. And to me, learning bebop is one of the hardest styles in music because it's all based on your ear. It's not as much as, okay, you're stepping over this person's vocals or this or that. Well, there's hardly any vocals in bebop, especially when you're a trio or something. But, I mean, there are singers, like, Fitzgerald and all that back in the day, Shirley Horn. But a lot of it has to do with improv. And I think that's really what it taught me was how to play with feeling and just on the spur of the moment. And if I heard someone hit a chord progression, I knew how to play with it or play with another player that you've never met, and you just learn how to, like, just gel. When you come into rock and roll, jazz actually hurt me because there were things that I was hearing in chord progressions and drum parts that overall the average person was like, oh, you're overplaying. And I wasn't like trying to get into Modern Drummer magazine or anything. It was just the way I felt music. And jazz is nothing where there's a stipulation where, oh, you can't play that or you can't do that. It's all about F it, it's jazz. That's like my thing I always say. It's like people are like, oh, hopefully this is going to be good. And I go, if it isn't, F it, it's jazz. Anything goes. Anything goes in jazz. And that's the mentality that I've always loved is it's all about experimenting and having fun and still staying true to a structure of a song, a melody, but playing around that melody. And that's what I was really intrigued with bebop.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember last time when we sat and talked and you went into it, especially when you were practicing when you're younger. And I mean, like, that definitely, that effort is, when you practice enough, and like they say, like Malcolm Gladwell said, like, there's like a unit, a measurement of practice. You practice like 1,000 times harder than someone else, greatness
right.
is achieved one way or another.
Right.
So, and I mean, this definitely caught the eye of, Benjamin in the beginning. I mean, which is crazy. There's that legend of your demo tape, which I think anybody I've ever talked to about you always brings it up. Like any of my friends who are drummers or any of my friends who are musicians, they always bring up that demo tape legend, and how you actually gave in a VCR, like a VHS tape for your demo, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think that was more of a blessing in disguise because it could have hurt me or it could have helped me. And in the actual way, it helped me because everyone sent him a DVD. And it was all categorized and everything. And here, I give them an old school VHS tape, no technology involved, and I played every song like it was a show. So I didn't stop playing. And there's one on YouTube where I'm playing So Cold. Now, mind you, I was still learning these songs like 15 minutes before I played them. So I still wasn't familiar with the song per se, but I was learning it. So I was like, hey, man, this is my only chance to get back into the, the scene. So when you're hungry, nothing stops you. You're driven. Right. So you're like, all right, I got 15 minutes. I got to send a video out now. All right, let me listen to the song. Okay, boom. And then you just start playing it. Well, nature of the beast is sometimes your drums fall apart or the record skips or the CD skips or whatever you're using. My pedal actually broke off. The beater fell off. So I had to switch to my left pedal with my right foot. I mean, and believe it or not, when Ben saw that, he couldn't believe that I kept the show going. And I treated it like it was a show because everyone that sent him a video or a DVD, they could have done it 400 times. You would have never known.
Right.
So mine was like playing game, like this is what you're going to get.
What made you want to join Breaking Ben? Like, what was about Breaking Benjamin that made you go, you know what, that's the band I'm going to bust my ass for, and I'm going to do this demo tape no matter what I have to do? Is it just nature, or was something caught your eye about the band?
Well, actually, I didn't even like Breaking Benjamin. I didn't even care about the band. I thought that Polyamorous song was kind of cliche and cheesy, but something that I looked at it as a music endeavor was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be left out. And this is my only opportunity. And I live in Elyria, Ohio at the time, So this is my opportunity. I got to strike the iron while it's hot. And that's kind of what I did. And then I started to fall in love with the music after I really started doing my homework when I had a chance to. But I'll be honest, I never liked the band at first. It wasn't my cup of tea. I came from a band called Switch that would have destroyed them on stage. They weren't like your typical new metal band at that time.
Right.
This was 2005. And I was like, well, they're not Korn. They sound like Tool, and it's like, let Tool be Tool. You know what I'm saying? Let Tool be Tool. Right. And to me, Breaking Benjamin's just a pop version of Tool. And I found the love in the band where I go, I know where I could fit in. And I got a lot of hate at first. They're like, bring Jeremy back. You suck, blah, blah, blah. And then when I did Phobia, I took the band to a different level.
Right,
and
you did, yeah.
That's just a fact. It's not like some arrogant thing. I brought my drumming to life in that band. And I've always said it, probably being biased because I'm a drummer, but drummers make or break a band. And if you have the right band, all the same good players, then you have a great band. And I think that's what Breaking Benjamin had when we had myself, Mark, Aaron, and Ben, even including Jeremy Hummel. And people prior to that, Bug and everybody added something before the new band, Breaking Benjamin 2.0 or whatever the hell they call themselves. With the old bands of all the history, everyone added something different. Jeremy played really cool parts in So Cold. I would have never played it that way. So when people are like, oh, you're the best drummer, I can't say that. All I can say is I took the band to another level, differently. That's all. Nothing, like praises or anything, but it is a fact. I mean, we were only a gold band at that time, and then we became platinum, and then this and this and this. happened for us. So it happened quite quick after the year 2005, you know. And again, I'm sorry?
Oh, no. Continue.
With all the jazz and everything that I had in my tool shed, I would say something like that as an analogy is having all the tools, you might not be able to pull it out in certain styles of music, and some bands might be cool with it. So you got to know when to pick your battles and know when to use a plier and use a wrench and use a flathead and use a screwdriver. Sometimes you might not use it for the project. But with Breaking Benjamin, I had a little more free ability to kind of say what I wanted to say on the drums. It's not all my drumming. It's not even a half of the talent of my drumming, but I got to do more than the average person in that genre.
Wow.
So that was a cool feeling.
Phobia was really, I mean, that just, you guys struck it with Phobia, and that was, a huge tour.
Yeah.
What do you feel is lacking from touring nowadays, if it's any different from back then? Do you feel any different now that you have a family and, you have committed relationships and you've gotten older? Do you feel touring is different when you're more mature than when you were back in 2003, 2004, 2005?
Oh, absolutely. What I think has changed is the mentality of the person, meaning, one, the music business is such a greedy, most prideful, most dishonest thing of a career that you ever want to join. And I know I'll probably get a lot of backlash, but I don't sugarcoat anymore. I'm literally sickened by the music scene and how rock and roll was at its forefront, and now it's completely knocked down to the bottom of the totem pole. And it's like, why is rock gone? Like, what happened to it? Well, it ends, and it's like a cycle. It kind of regurgitates. It goes away for a while, and then it comes back up to the top, and then it falls, and it comes back up to the top. It's something that we've seen in years and years and years and years to come. All I can say is when you get older and everybody's out for themselves, it's not a brotherhood anymore. There are some brotherhoods in bands I've toured with, and that's why they're still together. But there's not much brotherhood in bands because it's all I, because everyone's scared to share money and share success. There's a lot of jealousy, too, where it's like, I'm the lead singer. I'm the one that should get all the people to like. Drummer, you just play the beat. And it's like, if people have that mentality, then people treat it like a Groundhog Day. I'll just clock in and clock out and just play the drums and walk off stage. Maybe sign a couple autographs. Other than that, I want out of this. And you start seeing a lot of guys quit because they get so burnt out because it's not a brotherhood anymore. It's I. And the last time I remember watching a football game, you have a whole team, not I's. You have an offensive line blocking for a quarterback. Yeah, the quarterback's the one that gets all the hype and, you see him throw that touchdown pass last night to win the Super Bowl. But in all due respect, the offensive line is the one that blocked for the quarterback to throw. So when you get really depressed about that kind of stuff, you don't want to hang out. You just want to do your job. And the older you get, too, it's like when you do your first record, it's raw and it's exciting and everything like that. And then you just get burned out by the business, and it's like, all right, I'm here to do a job, and that's how you treat it. You forget what you're doing. Like, do you remember the time, like, when you step on stage and people are like, Freebird, you're like, oh, my God, I can't wait to just do a record and one day just tour and people singing my own, words of my lyrics. I think people forget that feeling. They forget about, like, wow, man, we made it. Quit dwelling on the negative and look at the positive. Whether you're in a van, whether you're on a tour bus, whether you're in a sold-out arena, or you're playing in front of 500 people. You can at least say you're on that stage doing it and doing what you love. But nowadays, no one buys CDs. Everyone downloads, and
right.
Who doesn't? I mean, I even listen to Spotify. I listen to all that stuff because that's what we're programmed to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like people don't realize how hard it is as a musician anymore. I mean, people have no problem listening to music, but they have no clue of what we have to do to make you be able to listen to that music. We have to pull our teeth out, to make it able to put out a record and hopefully survive on that. Where everyone's like, oh, I know you got a mansion and a Porsche. I'm like, well, when I find that, I'll let you know, because I don't own any of that. But it becomes, exactly Groundhog Day. You just clock in and you clock out. And you lose all the fun. So you have to kind of bring back the fun. You got to bring a brotherhood back together. And that's kind of what I like to try to do with bands is all get along, because guess what, guys? If we all hate each other, it's just going to be rough.
Wow.
And I think that's kind of what happened with Breaking Benjamin at the last part of our career. Everyone couldn't stand each other. I kept hush-hush for so long in the public, but that's the honest God truth. Ben couldn't stand us, and we couldn't stand him. But he wasn't a guy that's like, all right, well, we can't stand each other, but let's still keep touring. That didn't happen. It was just like, I'm sick, I'm dying, or whatever. And now he's back doing it again because he has that second chance. And God bless him for it. We wish him well. But if you can't get along, and a lot of bands don't get along, but they understand what it takes to just keep the business rolling. You don't have to like your boss. I don't think that was what I signed up for, but I had to do a job, and I did a job well. But there's all these different things that stop you from being creative. There's things that stop you from being, a team player, and there's things that stop you for overcoming obstacles and trying to move forward and push the band forward. You kind of just get burnt out. So hopefully in that story will give you some insight of how I think why the reason touring is the way touring is.
You see the success like a gift and a curse in the sense that you might with Phobia and everything else after that, you guys were touring, sold out concerts and arenas, and you guys were pretty much like rock darlings in the United States for a while. You feel it was kind of like a gift and a curse in the sense that it did start affecting the brotherhood of the band, but at the same time the success was great in that regard in getting your music out there?
Yeah. Again, with the genre of rock dying, no matter what band does well, I mean, it is a competitive market, okay? It's like football or basketball. You're friends with the other opponents, but you're still going to try to beat them. But in the actual grand scheme of things, you have to look at it as if Slipknot's doing good, that's doing good for our genre.
Right.
So you see all these bands touring together now. Now, like, think about it. You don't just see Slipknot by themselves. Or you don't see Breaking Benjamin or Shinedown or 3 Days Graces by themselves. You see a package tour because that's what has to sell. No one wants to spend that ridiculous amount of money to go see one band anymore.
Right.
But the question you're basically asking me is what now?
No, it's just that, do you see it as a gift and a curse, like the success? Like the success, for instance, in this instance, Breaking Benjamin, where you guys were just killing it and you guys were darlings of rock. But at the same time, the band itself declined until, everything happened with Ben and the whole lawsuit and everything happened there, between the band. So do you see that just a repercussion of the success of the band?
Yeah, I mean, no one knows the real story. There's always two sides of every story about Mark and Aaron and Ben with the whole some ass lawsuit thing. But it comes down to greed. And that's what usually breaks up the stupidity of a band. Me, me, me. My, I. And when your lead singer says, "Oh, I'm sick," I mean, I was there by his side all the time trying to help him. You know, or whatever, from alcohol or whatever his story is. I was there. I was by his side. I was his true friend. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about the success. A person's a person, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when he called it quits for a while, well, none of us are making money, you know? No one knows that I was a hired gun all those years. I was never a member. He would never make me a member. But I was still...
Wow.
Yeah, because they didn't want to pay me the money. That's why. That's why I'm saying this business is so greedy. It has nothing to do about talent anymore. It has all to do about how to be a businessman and networking and opening up the right doors. You know, one day I'm going to write a book about my whole instant of breaking Benjamin and this and that, and really not sugarcoat what I've said to fans and all that. When the time is right, I will definitely write a book about this business. I love it.
You know,
I love drumming, and I'll keep continuing to do it. But you know, when you're making money weekly, and then your lead singer goes, "I don't want to do it anymore." Well, that's great for you, but what do I do?
right.
Why am I in the same curse? Because you're an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't even drink. Why am I paying for your problems? And then he can look back and go, "Well, I gave you a job. You should just be happy." You know, and when you have that mentality towards each other, that's not a good environment. And you should be like, "All right, dude, I understand you're sick. You know, I wish you well. I'll call some doctors, and we'll figure out the root of this." Everybody has a different way of showing emotion. Some people wear a heart on their sleeve. Some people are just really, you know, stubborn about it. And it really comes down to it, dude. If you really want to make money and make a decent living, it's going to take blood, sweat, and tears. And everyone all has to share it equally. That's the only way rock will still exist, because we're not making money on CDs. We make it on touring. If we can't get along with each other on touring, how are we going to make a living? I didn't sign up to babysit. I signed up because I wanted to play drums and change the world in my drumming and turn people on to music and to drumming. That's why I signed up. I never signed up for money or groupies or anything like that. I did it because I love what I was blessed with, what I was born to do. But the music business has made it so jaded and not fun. You know, I've been stabbed in the back so many times, over and over, helping people. And they just ride my coattails and then just kind of jump ship and they sail. And that's where it gets to be the cliche rock story. It's either drugs or cheating on your wife and getting divorced or the band firing you.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I know, you know, I saw you also on tour with Mag a little while ago, and you know, and the story just came out. You know, Rolling Stone just did an interview with Scott, and I know you toured with Scott up until, what was it, last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then he kind of, you know, Scott's at the Creed for people listening, and you know, he kind of went off the wagon a little bit, and he didn't really handle the fame as well as he made it seem that he did. And I know you were there during, you know, you were touring with him at the time, and now he just really, you know, Rolling Stone just did a piece with him, and it seems like he's coming back too. And he just like announced a tour. Do you see yourself working with Scott again?
I probably will never work with him ever again.
Oh wow.
Just due to some stuff that happened. that I'm not going to really
of course.
talk about. It's more personal. But
right.
That was another instance that I wore a heart on my sleeve. I did everything I could do to help, and it wasn't ever appreciated. And, when you're in the music business and something happens, it's a very small circle. Okay?
Right.
And you got to be careful what you say and how you say it, because it can come around tenfold back to you. And,
right.
I've always been cautious of how to say it and what to say. But every time I've said stuff that's not true, it still comes back to haunt me. And I'm not a guy that wants to talk crap about people. It's not how I am. But, again, that was a really rough scenario right when he was falling apart. And I left Black Label to play with him.
Right.
And
I remember that.
Now here we go again with Chad learning the hard way. It's like, why am I always paying the price of somebody's problems?
Right.
Why can't we just play music, people? Why is there got to be other bullshit involved? I mean, literally, it's like babysitting 12-year-olds. And it's like, can't we just all get along and just play good music and have fun? But when you step out and you're the singer of Creed that sold 50 million records and you play in front of 200 people, that changes the way you look at life, I guess.
Right.
But you got to build that again. You do a lot of damage from you. You got to understand there's got to be repercussions of what happened. You got to learn from those. And you pick up the pieces and you move on. And he was a pleasure at first to be around with. I had no problem with him. It's just when he started to fall apart. And not seeing him on Celebrity Couples is, I don't know.
Right, yeah, he was on that recently.
Here's a guy who did meth, for God's sake. And now he's being on a TV show. And his whole thing is he's bipolar. So you're telling me since you've been a kid, you've never been diagnosed with bipolar. All of a sudden now you found out you're bipolar?
Right.
Yeah. It's like...
Yeah, that's intense, man. It's intense. It's really like an intense situation.
Yeah, because I have a family. I have a family that I left to go play with a person. And then, again, they call it short. But that's what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is, if that keeps happening in my life, I can't stop doing what I do. I just got to find a different scenario and a solution how to get out of it when you see it about to corrupt or about to fold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
no, you're 100% right. It's crazy. I mean, it really is a crazy situation. I mean, I'll be honest. I did see you with Black Label, though. I remember seeing you with Black Label Society, with Zach and all of them, and you seemed happy then. Playing with
the greatest.
And I mean, like I said, I've seen you I've seen you with Mag at a bunch of places. But that was honestly for me, seeing you like backstage, you seemed really happy. You were having fun, wife's there, your family was there, everybody was just having a good time.
Well,
do you see yourself going back and maybe playing with Black Label again?
This is the thing that I've always loved about Zach. Now, in a million years, a lot of people, I would have never thought I would ever play with a rock icon like that. 2, I never thought I could play that. And 3, I didn't think I could dress that way. So I had everything against me, And when I did the gig, everyone was blown away. They're like, I can't believe Chad looks like he should be in Black Label now. I can't believe he's playing double bass. But you got to be a chameleon in this gig if you're going to be a versatile drummer. Not just drumming, but mentality and lingo. And so playing with Zach, that guy was the greatest guy I've ever worked with. Professional, this is how it is, and that's it. He knows it because he was a hired gun with Ozzy. So he understood how to treat people and not be that rock star guy, which he was never to me. And the thing that is great about Zach is when you leave the band and another person replaces you, okay, he doesn't fire that person because he misses you or you're a better drummer or this or that. He always gives that person, whenever they want to leave, they leave. Then he'll invite you back. But I always am tight with Zach. I still talk to Zach. But that's the respect I give that man, is he doesn't just, okay, you're fired. He hates to fire people. That's the thing I respect about Zach, you know.
Yeah, Zach was great. I remember
I would love to play with Black Label.
When I came to Hammerstein and saw you last, I'd never met him before, and he was so welcoming, and he's such a great guy. Like, he
really is. He's intimidating, but is the biggest teddy bear I've ever worked with.
Right, and he's like a legend. So it was like crazy just to get that. He was just very, very affectionate, very nice, very welcoming. It was just like I've known him for years, which is like crazy.
I mean, yeah, that's why he's an icon. It's not just his talent. It's his attitude. I mean, of course, he probably did stupid things back in the day, probably when he drank, and who doesn't? But you know what, dude? He's a genuine guy. He's funny. He loves to tour. And I think that, to me, is why he's still doing what he does. Black Label will never be a band like Shinedown selling 4 million records, but he has the underground true scene. Not some popularity of what's cool on the radio, I'm going to go buy it. Everyone that goes to a Black Label show are all brothers in that crowd. They don't do it because it's the cool thing out there. They followed him when he was in Pride and Glory. They followed him when he did Book of Shadows. They followed him in Ozzy. They followed him everywhere. So all those people that go to those shows are Zakk Wylde fans. Not Chad's fans, Zakk Wylde fans. And that speaks volumes about somebody. Complete, that's the only thing I can say about that man. There's not one thing I could ever say about that guy. One thing.
Just to shift out for a sec, I know you were just talking, loosely about the technology now and how things have changed, like with CDs. And one of the things I always see you doing, and I always follow you with it, is that you're very extensive when it comes to, you actually do drum lessons, like through Skype, which is it's crazy, because, that's something that wasn't even around like 6-7 years ago.
Right.
And now that's a thing. How do you feel that brought you closer to fans and supporters and people who've followed your drumming and your style throughout the years?
Yeah, I say all the time. My fiance is a lot to do with my success of where I've been with Breaking Benjamin and the success that's still happening with me, but under the radar right now until I find something. She's really forced me to do Facebook and Instagram, and I've never been a fan of any of that crap. I never got into Instagram and said, okay, here's me eating a carrot. Here's me fixing my stove, But I just never thought people would even care about looking at that stuff. But nowadays, people are famous because of doing stuff like that. People are famous doing covers on YouTube. That's how they got gigs. So people don't even realize how easy they have it compared to what we had back in the day. There were no Instagrams. MySpace was just coming out, and I would hear every day, well, you're not on my top 10 faves. Oh, no, please don't. No, I want to be on you. It's like all it does is the bigger it is, the more problems you're going to have, and I always call it trace book because you never know what's going on in that thing, really, the grand scheme of things of Facebook. And I don't I tell a lot of people about my life, but I don't publicize it on Facebook per se. Sure. But I'll tell people, personal things or whatever. But with all these things in our disposal, people are doing stupid shit on YouTube, and they got 20 million hits, and people get paid for that.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And it's not talent; it's you being a dumbass.
Right. Yeah.
So how would the person that does have talent, that maybe doesn't have the privilege to own a computer or own anything, or doesn't even know any business aspects of how to market themselves, that are really good musicians in the basement, and they'll never see the light of day?
True.
But here's a guy who throws a snowball at an old lady and videos it, and it has the most likes. What's wrong with our society? That's not talent. That's you being a jackass.
Right.
That's why our world is the way the world is, because we live vicariously through other people's pain, not ours, or drama. When the whole Breaking Benjamin thing happened, everyone had to put their 2 cents in it and post. Well, they wanted to stand up and do this, but they had no clue of what feelings they were hurting, if it was mine, Ben's, Aaron's, or Mark's. Because they could wash their hands clean from it. And we'd be like, wow, this is some hurtful stuff. So with all these things being in our area to go on, you've got to be careful what you do on that too. And that's a lot of the downfall to musicians. You got to be careful what you say on there, because it's going to come back to haunt you. Once you hit send on that text and you post that, you can't erase that. That's there for people to take. So that's another part for the business. But with the YouTube, it's a good tool. I'm on it 24/7. I watch drummers all the time, and young drummers. So it's great for that aspect. But again, I'm going to be 39 in December. I didn't have YouTube at that time. I had to search and listen to songs to figure out how to play it, not flow frame by frame.
Right, true.
So again, with all that technology, look at the technology we have now, dude. I Skype and do drum lessons all over the world.
Right.
7 years ago, there was no such thing.
Yeah. And I remember when I first saw that on Facebook, I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like that's the thing. That's where we're in right now. That's what we're doing. Now you can actually Skype in between gigs or on tour or whatever the case may be, and just, hey, let's do some lessons.
Yeah, and I think the world. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I see that becoming like more of the norm. It's not even like something like, out of the blue. Yeah. That's the norm now.
Yeah, unfortunately, dude, I think what the world is missing is the more likes you have on Facebook or the more hits you have on Instagram or friends, then you're popular.
Right.
That's the honest thing I can say is if you saw 40,000 people on my Instagram, you'd be like, wow, this guy's popular. Or you could see Garth Brooks and he has a private one and he has one friend. It's like, it's whoever wants to throw that out that way. But it's a good tool to talk to your fans that you've never met.
True.
It can hurt you, and it can also help you. I've talked to so many fans, some fans that I can't always act on their wishes to help them out all the time, and sometimes when you don't, they think you're an asshole. And then it makes you go, I don't even want to do this anymore. People don't realize all the backlash that we get. It's not all grand scheme of things where you just step on a stage in front of a sold-out arena and then go home to your wife, dog, and a pink and white fence in a mansion. There's a lot of stuff that we have to do as musicians, all the meet and greets, all the interviews. And I love doing all that because that's the reason we have a job. If it wasn't for the fans, we would never be able to do what we do. So it's like a catch-22.
just to wrap, I know you have a ton of sponsors, but your drum sponsor is DW. What gravitated you towards DW, and what makes a drum kit great in your eyes?
I'll be honest with you. I say this to my drum students. It's you that's the talent.
Right.
But if you find the right sound that shows off your talent, well, then, my friend, you're 10 times over the other person that is playing, a smaller kit or a basic piece of crap kit. You got a $4,500 kit, it's going to sound like $4,500. But nowadays, there's so many good companies out there, but I chose to be with DW because it's a family. Their drums are amazing. They take time. Everybody that works in that factory are drummers. They think like drummers. So they're not there for just, I'm going to make a quick buck, so I'm just going to make something that, is going to work. It's like, no, they test it out to see with the musicians. What do you think we should do? You tour all the time, Chad. What do you think we should do with the pedal? That, to me, is taking the time to go, all right, we need to fix this because Chad's having this problem and Aaron Spears is having this problem with his pedal. We got to figure a way to make these drummers happy so the customers will be happy as well. So I went with DW because I believe in their product. They're always innovating new things, always pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
But the true talent is you. You can have a $17,000 kit, and it's going to look like a $17,000 kit.
Right.
If you don't play it in practice.
So what do you have coming up? What projects are you working on? Are you going on tour soon? What's going on?
Just freelancing. I'm actually going to LA November 3rd through the 17th to do a record for a friend of mine called Adam Flower. So
very cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing that, and then I'm doing a band right now with a guy named Mike Orlando called A Beautiful Disaster that we've been in the process for 5, 6, 7 months now. And great musicians, and I'm trying to bring rock back to like Guns N' Roses riffs,
Right. Like late 80s, early 90s, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that's the music, man. That's like when I heard Appetite for Destruction, the reason that record still stands true to rock and roll is because it was one of the best rock and roll records.
Right.
There was nothing that was double bass or anything like that, but it was the attitude in that riff. And Welcome to the Jungle. Right. I mean, listen to Van Halen. Van Halen was heavy back in the day.
Right.
But it was different heavy.
Hopefully we get it back, Hopefully we get it back. That's all we can hope.
I'm waiting for another Nirvana, dude. If it's the band that I'm playing with or another band, there always is going to be a band that comes out and fixes the hole in the drywall.
Right.
Right now it's flooded with so many bands again, and we're losing our genre. So a new band's going to come out, and it's either going to come back and bring back the old 80s vibe and bring that back again, and then the whole clothing and everything's going to change for a little bit, and then it's going to come back up again. That's usually what happens.
We're going to be checking back with you, Chad, and I'm going to be seeing you outside of this, with Mag. But where can our readers find you online, and where can they find your Skype sessions? Where's the best place to check you out?
Yeah, I teach on Skype. It's just Chad Szeliga.
Right.
I accept PayPal, and I usually charge 30 a half hour, 60 an hour. And sometimes if they go on my Facebook, just Chad Szeliga, you can see the prices. I do specials. And then they can see me on ChadSzeliga.com. I have my own website. I think I have to update it pretty soon. And, Instagram, Twitter. I'm still trying to learn how to tweet. I don't do any of that stuff. But doing all that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, that's the future, and either you're going to bitch about it or you're just going to accept it and just do it. So I got to get hip to it, I guess.
You will.
You know, I'll put more videos on YouTube and all that. But I have a whole thing, a library of videos of me on YouTube if they want to do that too.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate you so much. I'll give you all the information once everything goes live. And hopefully I'll be seeing you soon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, man. It was a pleasure to get to speak the truth for a little bit.
Yeah, man. We love you, man.
Yeah, let's bring back rock, man. Let's get it back, and, you know, everyone treat each other true, you know, and be friends, and let's all just have a good time and make good music. That's the only moral of the story, you know.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate you, man. I'll hit you up later.
Anytime.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.